Hey, Autoimmune Warriors, welcome to the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast. I am so fired up for you to be here. If you're navigating life with an autoimmune condition, you're in the right place. I am your host, Des, and I am not just a podcaster. I am right here in the trenches with you as a fellow autoimmune warrior. We're diving into real, uplifting stories and some seriously smart expert tips and simple lifestyle tweaks that can make a difference in how we feel day to day. Now I've got to give a huge shout out to my amazing listeners. You're the heartbeat of this podcast, and I'm so grateful for you tuning in. If you're loving the vibes, here is how you can keep the love flowing. Drop a rating on Spotify, share a quick review on Apple, or pass this episode along to a warrior buddy who can use a boost of hope. Here are some patients that are killing it for our community. Workers with Autoimmune Ailments Alliance. These folks are fighting the good fight for students and workers like us with autoimmune conditions. Want to get involved or learn more? Swing by WAAA.org. They'll love to have you. Leap Cure. They're all about hooking up patients with cutting-edge clinical trials and putting our voices front and center. Check them out at leapcure.com. Adapt Naturals by Chris Kresser. They offer nutrient-packed supplements based on science. Snag 20% off your first order with my code DEZ, D-E-Z, at Adapt Naturals. From my heart to yours, I'm sending you nothing but love and good vibes. Let's dive in together. All right, welcome so much for joining me on the Stronger Than Autoimmune podcast, Mireille. It's Mireille Sine, correct?
Mireille.
Mireille. Oh, I like that.
Thank you.
Mireille Sine. Mireille Sine, Masters of Public Health, is a USATF and 80/20 endurance certified running coach, lupus athlete, and health educator from Los Angeles. She focuses on community, movement, and health, offering tailored coaching for autoimmune athletes in road and trail running. When not coaching or running, she enjoys watching shows, snacking, and resting. So thank you so much and welcome to my show. And let's get into this introduction a little bit. You have a master's in public health and UT or
USATF.
SATF.
Yes.
I'm guessing it's triathlete something or...
Yeah, the USATF is the governing body of a lot of major races. The TF stands for track and field. So there's a USA version for the triathlete community, but in the running community, it's all under track and field, even some of the distance events. So 5Ks, 10Ks, and things like that. But they're a pretty big sponsor of a lot of the races that you would be seeing in the US and sometimes even overseas.
Awesome. Wow. And the 80/20. I mean, I've heard an 80/20 rule that, applies to everything, but
yeah,
what does that mean?
Yeah, it's almost a similar concept even for training. So 80/20 endurance is a coaching company, a training plan company. There's so many different ways to describe them. They've been in the business for at least a decade, I believe, and they came out with their own certification also for, the coaches that want to apply the for lack of a better word, to the training process. So Matt Fitzgerald was the co-founder in that, and he's written books about the benefits of the 80/20 approach when it comes to running and training.
Awesome. Yeah. And for any of those people out there that don't know the 80/20 rule, do you want to explain that?
Yeah. So if we're looking at it from a training concept or even from a life concept, 80% of the things that you're doing should be relatively easy or manageable and not really high stakes. But that 20% is you going in or like going hard, as they say, every once in a while. So there's that balance in training, whether you're looking at the week or you're looking at just things you have going on in life. Like if 80% of it is fairly manageable, then you have the 20% of it to go hard or to try to really get your heart rate going and things like that. So but you need that balance because not everything can be super difficult all the time, otherwise you don't really progress. You'll tend to burn out more. But if it's 80 to 80% and manageable, then you have room to sprinkle in those harder sessions in order to have a more like well-rounded training experience.
Yeah. And tell me about your roots,
Yeah.
where you're from.
So I was born in Cameroon. It's a country in the western section of Africa. I grew up there for a little bit as a kid. And when I was 6 years old, my family moved over here to Los Angeles. And we've been here ever since. So I also consider myself like a native of Los Angeles because it's been so long. And there's so much diversity in here. And the community, like we were able to find, our own Cameroonian and African community back in the day. So that was really helpful in just transitioning over to a whole new country. And since then, just growing up here with my family and going to school here, being able to make so many different friends, runners, non-runners, people in all these different fields and working different jobs around the city. It's just like looking back, it's always wild to see how things have changed over the past 20 or so years. Even like, the neighborhoods that I grew up in, I still go to my mom's house and we were talking about the different things that used to be here and there or what's coming up, what's being built, a couple of blocks down. But yeah, I love Los Angeles. I don't know if I would want to live anywhere else, to be honest. Yeah, it's been home. I call Los Angeles home. I call Cameroon home. You can have it both ways, I think.
Yeah. I think wherever your heart feels at home. I mean, that's really what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And I want to hear about, because it sounds like you ran before you got lupus or diagnosed. Would you mind sharing that journey or that story?
Yeah, I would say I have always been active in some way. I played sports as a kid. I started getting really into dance in the later half of elementary school, but I kept going with it all the way until undergrad, basically. So whether it was hip hop dance or choreography, that's what kept me moving. That's what kept me active. I dabbled in track in high school, found out running could actually be a little bit fun, even though I still sort of hated it back then. But it wasn't until I got to college and, you're the first time you're really on your own and you have to figure out like, oh, I need to go and exercise. Like no one's going to give me a class to go and exercise. And we had a brand new gym that had opened, I think maybe the year before or the same year that I got there. And yeah, I was utilizing the gym, going to fitness classes. I love group fitness, exercises like Zumba and all these different like strength training components. So I felt pretty good and pretty strong. And I kind of kicked up, once you move out of the dorms and into your first apartment, that's like another level of independence. Now I have to feed myself and I have to exercise.
Turn.
Yeah. So I kept up pretty well with that. But when it came to getting lupus, I was more than halfway through college at that point. I remember I started getting sick the summer of the 2011 or maybe the top of 2012, the beginning of like I remember vividly the first symptom that I felt. I didn't know it was a symptom back then, but I was taking a course in the summer, so I was taking the bus back to campus. And it's morning, it's a little chilly, but I'm holding like my thermos and I'm standing in the sunlight waiting for the bus, but I'm still so cold and my hands are like freezing. And I thought, this is weird. Like this is the first time that's ever happened to me. And my fingertips were starting to turn blue a little bit. I didn't feel any pain. I just felt like the sensation and I just knew something was off because it's like, there's no way I'm in the sun holding something hot and I'm still cold. So that was sort of like the first little inkling that I had. And as most people who go through the diagnosis journey will tell you that it takes forever or it can take a while. But ever since then, like smaller things started popping up with like, losing bits of my hair or joint pain or having difficulty sleeping or getting out of bed. So it's sort of like the pieces are coming together, but I can't see the puzzle yet. And I still have no idea what's going on. So I'm at a point
Especially
where,
since you were so young and so active.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think you never think something like that's going to happen to you. Like, especially when you feel like you're doing all the quote unquote right things, like you're eating well, you're active, you're social, all of these things. And then to be hit with something that kind of like derails all of that is just like, you just never know life can go in that direction. But I think the time and effort that I had spent with trying to live a healthy lifestyle ultimately helped me in the end. Because there were moments where I thought like, oh, if I didn't care about my nutrition or getting to the gym, like how worse could this have gotten over time? And even though like slowly the symptoms did start to get worse to the point where, I had to be hospitalized. And then that's when I finally got the diagnosis. It's like, I'm glad I still gave myself that background and the aid or had the wherewithal to like I'm young. I need to be taking care of this stuff now so I can age well and be healthy as an older person. But still, like, to be diagnosed 22, I was finally diagnosed. And I'm just like looking at my life is barely starting. I was set to graduate within that year, and that got pushed back because I took time off from school to go through treatment and all these different factors. So, yeah.
Wow. So how
Yeah.
long did it end up taking to get diagnosed?
About a year and a half. A
Okay.
year and a half. And the first place that I really went to was our student health center, right?
Mm.
Because the joint pain had gotten pretty bad at that point where I was even having trouble getting around campus, just walking.
Oh,
And they said, "Oh, maybe it's juvenile RA. Well, we'll try and go with that for now. But if things progress, then you might have to, take it up to like another clinic and things like that." So things did progress. Unfortunately, I started, having some lymphatic issue with just swelling and not being able to like kind of regulate swelling in my legs and my fingers and things like that. And so that's when I started going more to the community clinic that I had within my insurance and, telling them the symptoms, trying to get blood tests. They were very inconclusive. They're saying it might be this, it might be that, but, we don't have enough to really know or to diagnose you with something. And so things keep getting worse and I keep not feeling so great. And again, it's like the next summer where I'm taking another course. And by this time, I believe my fingertips had started to turn black on one hand, and the other hand was just like weird stuff happening. And I'm wearing a glove at this point because I don't want other people to like be looking at me and trying to
girl. I
wonder, like, yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
be next to you.
I don't want to look at my hand. Other people don't want to, like, it's not cute. And I'm still having trouble like regulating my temperature and sleeping and all these different things. And I remember I was taking a class during the summer. It was in the evening, and I just felt terrible. Like I had my sweaters on, but I still was so cold in the classroom. And I just said, I don't care how I get there. I need to go to the ER. And I'd gone to the ER before and again been dismissed, but this time I'm going to go in there. I'm going to show them my hand. I'm going to say all these things. And it wasn't until that they saw my hand that they were like, oh, something could actually be wrong here. And I'm like, I've been trying to tell you, like, this is not my first rodeo in here. So of course I'm waiting before I finally get admitted, and they're able to do some short-term recovery on my fingers, the ones I had to be like cleaned up and things like that, before finally admitting me. And it was my first time I'd ever heard of lupus or what a rheumatologist was and all these different factors. I got an angiogram, which, revealed that I had blood clots, which is why my hands were turning black. But it was just a year and a half of just slowly just getting confused by what I was doing or what was happening to me and not really having, you know, these
Any
medical
direction.
professionals, any direction, or having these medical professionals like at least give me a hint of what was going on. So literally when I was in the ICU was the first time I'd ever heard the word lupus.
That is
Yeah.
so scary. And
Yeah.
all you're doing is trying to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I'm trying to graduate and get out of here.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that is a roller coaster ride for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm trying to go from black hand to
Mm-hmm.
running now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did you heal yourself in such a way that you were able to finish school? You were able to, you start your own business and
Mm-hmm.
helping people, build their
Yeah.
own strength, build their own endurance. Tell me about that.
Yeah. I think I remember the moment again being in the hospital where it did start to dawn on me how serious things were. Back then I wanted to pursue a career in physical therapy. My major was exercise science. But then I figured like, well, if this stuff is happening with my hand and PT is such a hands-on profession, like I don't know how that's going to work out. So it started to make me like reevaluate what it is that I really wanted to do career wise or just education wise. And there was a part of me that was also a little bit in denial too in that point, right? I waited till the last minute to email my professors to say, hey, I'm probably not going to be in school this semester because I was like, I was holding on to like any shred of hope that I had to just go back and be back to normal. And hey, at least I have a diagnosis and I'll just take the medication and, things will start to get better. But I stepped away from school for a semester because they actually suggested chemotherapy as one of the treatments that would take 6 to 7 months. So I took off a semester to do those first 6 infusions. And it was just, if anyone that's done chemotherapy, they sort of know what the cycle is. It's like that first week, you're really not doing so great. You can't keep anything down. Second week, maybe you're keeping light snacks. Third week, you start to feel like your normal self, but soon enough, fourth week comes around and you have to go in and do it again. So that was sort of my life at like my early 20s. Again, not any way that I expected to be spending 22 and 23, but it's what I had to do. And that's really all I had to go on back then, was to just listen to what they were telling me. And of course, I'm still advocating for myself at times, with like, well, what if we try this method, or what if we try this, or like, I'm not feeling great when I have to do this, because it was the chemotherapy. It was taking warfarin to address the blood clot issue. And so anyone that's taken warfarin also knows it's really finicky when you go in and you have to get your INR tested every so often. And there's so many things that can set it off too. So I would say for a young person, it was a lot to have to like handle at the same time and still try to figure out like your own life. But I didn't see any other way around it. I think, to my own testament, like I'm never the person that has given up. Like, yeah, I'll take a break and I'll rest for a little bit to try and figure things out. But it's just like, I always want to keep going forward, because I always think something better is coming. And so it took about a year. So we have 6 to 7 months of treatment. And then the second half of the year was just kind of making sure all the medication was like in the right dose and things like that. I couldn't move as much as I did before, because I didn't have the energy. So it was only after, the lupus got a little bit more under control, according to lab tests, the warfarin dose got a little bit more under control, that I asked my doctor, like, oh, can I go back to physical activity? So it was a year and a half after the diagnosis at this point. He said, yeah, you should be good to go. The only problem with that is there's no direction in that too, right? For someone that was super active, and now you're just like, okay, does that mean I go back to my old routine, or do I, like, what am I supposed to do
Start
first?
slow.
Yeah, start slow, so I was just like, okay, I'll go to the gym and I'll just see what happens. I was like, I was an N of one for so many years, just like being my own little experiment, and just, yeah, testing the waters. And I found that running took a long time to come back. It was like starting from not even square one, but like square -5, because it hurt so bad to do that after not doing it for so long. And I could barely run down the sidewalk before I needed a break. It was that sort of situation. But I use that as like my benchmark, right? So it's like, if my goal is to run 3 miles, when I go out and do it, I'm going to, try and remember or journal, how long could I go before I needed a break, or how did my legs feel this way, or how did my heart feel, or, how am I recovering? And that's all I had to go off from those early years, trying to get back into activity.
It's almost like a experiment. Like you have to be like your own mad scientist, like writing everything down and how's this, how's that. But with data, you can see it and you can say, okay, what went well, what, oh, well, maybe I didn't do so well because I didn't eat good, or, I mean, but there's so many factors. And it seems like you really, like, you dug into that part of you, that scientist. I really want this. So you must really love running, or you love the physicalness.
I do love running now. And I think the main reason I did go back to that as my first sport, because it was the most easily accessible, right?
You just need shoes.
I just had my shoes. Even back then, I was still wearing old like gym shirts from high school. Like, it's not as fancy as we are doing it now. So it's like I could just put on a t-shirt, some random tights, and go out and do it. My campus is very open, so I never felt weird, like, running around our pyramid or the gym or things like that. So yeah, it felt accessible, and I could just sort of do it on my own, because there was also a hesitancy to try and work out with other people at the time too. Like, I wasn't as comfortable going back to a group environment quite yet, because I feel like I would just get petered out in those early days when I'm trying to build back. I'm like, I didn't want to be the person that's like huffing and puffing and everyone else is like smiling and laughing. Yeah, I do like running. Definitely became my favorite at that point, and I've kept up with it ever since, because it's also remained one of the easiest ways to manage and also track my own health. Yeah.
So when you say manage and track your own health, give us some parameters or how you do that.
Yeah, I think, physical activity can also be a double-edged sword for folks with autoimmune conditions because it's like, too much and you might flare up, too little, you might get sick anyway. So you really have to find that good middle ground. But it always made me feel good. And whenever running would feel bad for some reason, something in me just told me that, like, okay, something's probably going on. So it was that sort of that cue for me.
Hmm.
If something that I enjoy generally feels good day in and day out, and if one day or one week I'm just having a really, really tough time, then that's sort of my first clue that something is off.
Yeah.
Along with, sleep and things like that. But I would tell myself, if everything else feels relatively normal, but this is feeling kind of off, then there's something I really should start to pay attention to. So it became my litmus test for a very long time. And even when I started getting into longer distances, like even that was a test, right? It's like, how far can I go before I either start to get better at this running thing or I start to break down because of the lupus factor. So it's just like, how do I test how in remission I really am? It's the words that I used to say. I think I had the benefit of youth on my side because I think when you're diagnosed with something like that at a young age, you either go balls to the wall or you just kind of like cowered back a little. And I was just like, I'm just gonna see how far I can go and see what happens. And they caught it once, they'll catch it again. So I was really just like, yeah,
That's
trying to
awesome.
live it up.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
because it had already taken so much. So yeah, using running as a litmus test, because I know it makes me feel good. And in the times where I've had minor flare ups, and the only time I've had a major flare up was a couple of years ago. And the thing that helped me figure that out too was the running. It's like I would go out to my usual route, and within 10 minutes, my legs kind of felt like they were swelling up, which I'm like, okay, that's definitely going to be like something's happening with my kidneys because that's my most affected organ. So just little context clues like that, it really helps me keep things in line.
Yeah. I was never a runner like you. I mean, I did some 5Ks and half marathons and stuff, but there is something about running that just like, it's so freeing. I don't know. I mean, but I can't even imagine. I mean, I weight train now, but
Mhm.
you're at a different level. You're at this like, you're at this other level that I can't even imagine. So I'm in awe, right now. What specific strategies do you use for
Mhm.
yourself to help runners with their autoimmune conditions and in training?
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
do
For
you do?
for those that inquire to work with me, they're usually fresh off of getting a diagnosis. Sometimes they have been athletes before, so they're already used to like running or doing some sort of strength training, and they're trying to figure out like, okay, how do I get back to that, or what does that look like for me now post diagnosis? And so I always say that like the beginning part of working together, of working with a coach, is usually pretty slow and it's usually pretty boring because we have to figure out like what is that sweet spot for you. And you can say that with a lot of athletes, but I think that is more important for the autoimmune athlete because, those first few months of trying to get back to activity, they're super tentative, right? You don't know what's going to cause a flare up. You don't know what your endurance is looking like. So I always tend to start on the more cautious side of things. We'll do a few sample runs, maybe an easy workout. And if you start to respond good to that, given everything else in your life, maybe you're taking medications, maybe you're also, returning to work and things of that nature. So really taking into consideration just like the life and stress aspect of things as we try to work around that to build like a perfect schedule for you. So always starting out super easy, seeing what's tolerable, and building that endurance slowly over time, because the last thing we want is to go too fast too soon and then you end up having to take an even longer break or more time off before you can return to sports. So the first thing is always to take it slow, take it easy, don't rush the process. And as a coach, it's also it's imperative for me to like do research on that diagnosis because not everybody come to me has lupus, which is, I understand lupus, but some folks have MS, some have like a mystery of things that they're still trying to figure out themselves. And so it's just like I have to do my research too to figure out like what are some triggers for this diagnosis or what are some commonalities that I should be looking out for as a coach as a coach as well, and planning for that in advance. And I think the third thing is communication is always going to be key. I like to say that a coach, once you start working with a coach, they are also a part of your team, right? Your support team. You have your doctor, your family, your friends, and things like that. And I want to be within that network also. So I'm going to ask you, like, is this doctor approved? Like, are we okay to move forward with this? Or what does your treatment schedule look like? And how do I like support that when it comes to scheduling your training and your runs?
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you, and what are some key elements that you ensure somebody's particular health or ranges, or is that what I guess the first few weeks working with you is about, is trying to figure that out?
Yeah, yeah. So we looked at the objective, so the data part of running. Usually, folks nowadays are wearing wearable. That's the word. Wearable. And so since my training is done online, I'm seeing that data come back to me about their watch. So I know, heart rate and HRV and pace and all these things. So that's the half of what we need. But I always ask athletes to also give me that subjective feedback. So after your run, there's a section on our training plan where they can jot some notes down about how they felt, or to mark anything felt off, or even just felt good. So we're going off of what the data is telling us, but also how they're feeling, because sometimes the data could say like, oh, this person needs a rest day tomorrow, but they're feeling really good. That could just be what their baseline is a higher heart rate because of medication or because of lifestyle or things like that. So it's important to sort of like work within those nuances those first few weeks. So then I know that like next time I'm looking at a run and I might be worried because, oh, this heart rate kind of seems high, but now I know that's just their normal, because they've
Right.
told me that like, I know I feel pretty good at this level, and we just start building from that.
Yeah. So it's really a lot of trust, and yeah, biometrics are part of that information, but it's really, like you said, digging into how that person feels and
Hmm.
not ignoring, like, oh, I'm just going to push through, and like, no, really listen to your body.
Yeah.
How do you, many times, just like you on your beginning of the story, you said, I just pushed through. I wanted to continue my school. So
Hmm.
how do you get your clients to really listen to their bodies when they've been ignoring it for so long?
Yeah. That's always so tough. And I think that's part of the incentive of working with someone that has a similar life experience to you, because I can then speak from that experience, especially from an endurance aspect. It's like, there's been times where I know I've gone too far, and that's only put me back. So like being able to rely on those stories and and use those as examples is also super helpful. So then they see that like the thoughts you're having are completely normal. Of course you want to go on and have like a normal life, but things do have to change going forward in order for it to be a healthy life as well too. So I even from day one, when I was an N of one in my own experiment, it's just like now I'm using the past decade of doing that in telling these stories and giving them like real life examples of like how they could get around things, or maybe some things that would be worth discussing with their doctor, or just how to further build community too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely having that life experience, I think, is something that helps to set me apart a little bit, and we're just able to like be more open with communication as well. Yeah.
Yeah. You've been doing this, you just mentioned 10 years. So do you have a particular person you're like, man, we struggled really hard. You worked really hard with this one person. And you're just like, she's the client that I am most proud of. Or he, can you, I mean, obviously not share their name, but would you mind sharing some details?
Yes. Well, for coaching, I've been coaching maybe I think this is my fourth year. 10 years meaning like living with lupus for the past
Gotcha.
12.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, 10 to 12. Yes. So I have a couple of examples. One would be a good example of how we were able to pivot when we were really, really close to the race that she wanted to do, because a month out, she started having a flare up.
Mhm.
Right. And that's like the worst, where it was a pretty bad one, because she did have to go to the hospital. She had to adjust her nutrition, and anyone that has done any endurance sports knows just how critical having the right nutrition is to a good run, a good performance in a race, and things like that. So of course, the first thing was waiting out the flare, right? Following whatever the doctor said. And that took us about a week and a half to 2 weeks. And in this timeline, I'm just reassuring her that, like, we'll think of solutions. Your training isn't all going away. Like, everything we've worked for the past, like, 6 to 8 months, like, isn't going to disappear overnight. So we can bank on that. You'll still have something in the tank in order to at least get you to the finish line. I think what we'll have to do now is change our strategy for the actual race. So I drew up a couple of different pace strategies for her to test out. So we had just enough time that she tried both of those plans just to see what felt better for her. She picked one, and that's what she stuck with throughout the whole race. So she may not have finished in the time that we had expected her or that we had wanted from the beginning, but she was able to finish healthy, happy, was taking videos and photos throughout the
That's
whole race. So she
awesome.
had a really good time with that. Yeah.
Congratulations. I bet that
Yeah.
was, well, I mean, that felt good for you also to see her follow through, because that's what you ultimately want,
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, that's a beautiful story. I know you also work with corporations and with implementing running programs, getting people more healthy or employees more healthy. How do you address the diversity in fitness levels as everybody's coming from different backgrounds and health issues? Can
Yeah.
you talk about that?
I think it always helps to start with a bit of myth busting, because once you're able to hear what people have thought or read or seen and taken it as truth, then you have a good starting point, because you can start with just demystifying. And then, like, you might have heard this, but this is what it actually looks like. Or maybe running to them is, oh, those are for Olympians, which means I need to be in the gym I'm like, no, 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 no. That's a completely different level. That's when we're getting into like performance. What we need to work on right now is just setting a base, and then we'll start to like look at increasing that fitness. So just going around the table, going a little Q&A, just like, what have you heard? What has, wellness or movement look like for you in the past? Do you come from an active family? Do you come from an active background? And sort of using those as little pieces to the puzzle in order to sort of build out a program that is hopefully sustainable for them, that is enjoyable for them, and actually fits into what that current lifestyle is. Because, with people that work in corporate, maybe they are at a desk all day and they just have some time in the morning, maybe their lunch break or right after work, to squeeze something in. So also to make it manageable for them also as well, so that over time they are seeing hopefully those little improvements, whether that is having more energy during the workday, or they start to make better nutrition choices that support not only their wellness and fitness, but also, their cognitive function during the workday as well. So yeah, definitely starts from just getting a big pot of like, okay, what are we actually working with here, and how do we debunk and demystify so that we can actually get to the truth and the root of everything in order to build a plan for you.
Yeah. So it's really building, understanding what running is and what it means for that person. So it's a little bit different for, I mean, I guess in a way it's similar, but it's the same working with a person that has an autoimmune disease, because you're almost dismissifying the what can happen, or I can't do this because I have it. It's like, no, these are the things you can do. I mean, you're a testament to it. You can be an endurance athlete with autoimmune disease. With recovery, and it's so crucial. How do you explain this, and how do you, with not only corporate employees, but with autoimmune individuals, what techniques do you use with them?
I always implement at least one recovery day during the training week, because recovery is a part of training. And that can be active recovery as well. That's going out for a walk or going out for a hike with your family and your friends. But no matter how advanced they are or how beginner they are, everyone gets at least one recovery day. More, if we're just starting out and we need to still sort of flesh out what feels good for them. But recovery is a part of the process, because that's the only way that well, one, it's for adaptation. From a physiological perspective, we need that day to just like let everything kind of calm down, rest, and assess, in order to see, like, are we actually adapting to the plan? Are we actually getting healthier, stronger, whatever the goal may be? So it's imperative for that. And it's imperative for just our mental and emotional health as well, right? If we are just glued in on trying to train 20, burnout can happen real quick. So we need that time to just take a step back. Maybe we were a couch potato. Maybe we are out just maybe cross training with a different sport. That can also be a form of recovery. But recovery, I always say recovery is a part of the training process. And that goes back into just like, debunking and demystifying is like, some people think that in order to make those gains, they need to be constantly on or to constantly be doing something. But you see more progress when you've taken the time to actually take a step back and then get back into it.
So what do you do for recovery?
I do a cross training day, one per week. So instead of running, I go on the elliptical, just keeping it super light and easy. And on the weekends, I take one full day off. And for me, nowadays that usually looks like I'm going and playing with my nephew and just hanging out with him for like half the day, going and walking for coffee, just super chill. I even try to like not be on social media as much that day to get like the mental recovery of not having to scroll. And sometimes I'll just sprinkle in little things that feel good throughout the week. So maybe it's foam rolling because my leg is feeling a little tired. I'm occasionally getting a massage so I can feel better when I actually run. Meal recovery day sometimes will coincide with the meal prep day also. So I found that like just having food ready makes such a difference, just like not in life, but also just like in training, because it's one less thing to think about. So it's just like, it's a recovery day, it's a prep day, or it's just like a play day.
I like that play day. I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, I mean, I see working out or as play, but I guess everybody sees things differently.
It should be as play.
Yeah, getting your body moving. I think
Yeah.
as adults, I think that's the part that is missing so much is we forget how to play.
Yeah, that's how it feels for me. It's just like I'm a morning person and I really enjoy running in the mornings as well. And so I always stop to take a photo of stuff that looks cool. Like this morning I saw there was a mural of a rabbit and it was just so beautiful. So I was like, I'm gonna stop and take a picture of this. Or there was like a nice quote on a wall, because that's what makes it play for me too. And it's also just like setting an example for the community around you. You know, it's like you'd be surprised how many people like will cheer you on just because they see you running and there's like, you know, like good for you, or giving away from their car. And it's I think it's so important just to show people what's possible with your own body.
Yeah, that's amazing. And part of your whole journey, you know, you've gone through lupus and now you have your own business and you're running. What has been the hardest part of your journey with exercise or movement and your autoimmune disease?
Yeah, I'd say I had a really tough time with my last flare up. You know, so for a decade or so, I was in remission with very minor flare ups, and I still haven't had one that landed me back in the hospital. But with this last one, I could physically and mentally see how it was affecting me. And the time that it came about was just like, you know, when it rains, it pours. I was working in a corporate position prior to, and I started to not feel great. This is also like middle of the pandemic, so there's a lot going on and COVID and all this stuff. So I got COVID, which I'm pretty sure triggered the flare up, because 2 weeks later I was like, oh, this is not good. And so that combined with burnout from doing this very intensive job, I took a step back, a medical leave during that summer, just to like try and help myself like calm down or figure out what's next. And that was really when I actually started thinking about doing coaching full time, because I was only doing it on the side at that point. And I was like, okay, it's very clear to me that I need more autonomy in my own life. Like trying to squeeze in training in the morning before getting on the train to go to this job and sit all day, and then try and coach in the afternoon wasn't quite working. And I'm pretty sure that was adding to the stress. So it was a very difficult spot to sort of prioritize my health, and also not knowing how long the flare was going to last, which ended up being a pretty long time. That's always the unknown, is just like, how quickly can I get over this? Like, what do I have to do? And then to try and start a business at the same time. Yeah, that was tough. There's so much you don't know about entrepreneurship until you're like doing it, and until you're doing it. Yeah, and even now I'm still doing it, and there's every day it's like I'm wearing 5 different hats and trying to figure out what's going on and keeping things afloat. But back then, it's like what my driving force was, wanting to help people and wanting to help myself, if I'm honest, with just like getting that autonomy to not have to be attached to that 9 to 5, so I could have the freedom to work out when I actually wanted to, instead of when I needed to. To feel good and enjoy the process again, because it was just like you could give me a time and I'd tell you what I would be doing, because it's like it's you know, so regimented, and I just wanted like a breather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like the perfect storm, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is going more to, I guess, everybody out there that is thinking about running, whether they have autoimmune disease or not. What advice do you give somebody if they're thinking about bringing this into their life?
Yeah. Start where you are. Number one, especially if they have a history of athleticism in the back. I think once you have a diagnosis, we have a tendency to want to be that person again, but we might have to close a chapter on that person at the same time. So it's really important to just start where you are. And if you're not running the paces that you used to, if you're not at the same endurance level that you used to have, that's okay. Things can always be built back, but we need to accept that they just might look a little bit different. So that would be the first one. And two is to know that there's so much variety out there, even within running. I think, marathons have gotten real popular over the past few years. And so folks have started to think that, oh, I'm not a runner unless I've done a marathon. And that's like, I call BS on that every time, because people really love the 5Ks, the 10Ks, the halves. People really love the Disney races or the color runs or different challenge courses, right? There's so much variety out there and opportunity to get out and to be active that you don't have to feel like, you need to stick to this one distance and, again, go hard or go home all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the wonderful thing that I've noticed, like you said, throughout the years is there's so much variety of ways for people to get active, and they bring in DJs and music so you can feel like pumped, and there's
Yeah.
a community. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also the fun part of running is that I mean, even though you're by yourself, there is still a community of runners that you can be
Yes.
part of and not
Yeah.
feel so alone.
Yeah. Running is a team sport.
Do you have any personal running goals for yourself now that we're talking about goals and running?
Yes. So it's going to sound a little weird, but I'm actually taking it back to basics this year. I think, again, life experience and life lessons. When I had the flare up, I still tried to do the things I used to do. And of course, that
Are you not taking
backfired.
your own advice?
I was really, a good lesson came out of it between the runner's identity and things of this. It's been a really good teaching experience for me. But now I am taking my own advice and taking a step back and actually starting to rebuild my own fitness from the ground up. And it's been going really well. I had a lot of fun training this month. And it's like, I can't remember the last time that I was just looking forward to the next strength session or the next run. And I think for me, I've taken the pressure off of needing to race this year also. That's always been a big part of my running experience, and just sort of like number one goal is to just feel good again and feel comfortable in my body again, and then we'll think about like adding in those more performance aspects. But yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I like that you're taking your own advice.
Yeah.
So often we get wrapped up in, trying to be, and
Hmm.
it's almost like, whoa, what am
Yeah.
I doing? So I really enjoyed the conversation with you. Is there anything that you would like to add? How can people find you and work with you,
Yeah.
become the runner that they always wanted to be?
I'm working on a really good hashtag that will hopefully catch, on into the autoimmune athlete community. But yes, I'm very active on Instagram at Hey Coach Mireille. I highly recommend subscribing to my newsletter. It's free. It comes out 1 to 2 times a month. You can find a link to that also through my Instagram. And then you can visit my website if you ever just want more information about myself or coaching or things that I've been up to as well.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Guess who I just connected with, warriors? Leap Cure. Leap what? Leap Cure. Leap Cure connects patients with clinical trials to make research more equitable and efficient. Listen to their latest clinical trial.
If you've been diagnosed with thyroid eye disease and are seeking potential new treatment options, you might be interested in the LIDS clinical trial. If you're 18 and over, have a diagnosis of Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, and are interested in potentially participating in research, you can fill out a short questionnaire at lpcur.com/TED. You'll be connected with someone on the team to determine whether it might be a good fit for you. Check your eligibility and learn more at lpcur.com/TED.